Welcome to Preps Plus Podcast, episode 17, brought to you by Sterling Auto Group. To my right, Josh Hart. Left, Dawson Carr. Receiver, defensive back, Rainier. Here to talk a little bit about football and some other things. So, one thing, Dawson, just to get the ball rolling, what are your thoughts on the game coming up this week?
Looking at film and stuff, I don't think it's going to be near the competition as last week before that. Those are obviously two really big games, and honestly it'll probably be closer to a cakewalk than these last couple games.
Okay. So what happens if you're down in the after the first quarter?
Probably gonna get our butt chewed, and we're gonna have to step it up a little bit. But no, looking at film, the matchups are just not even close to what they've been the last few weeks. It's hopefully nothing bad happens, but I don't see any problems.
Were you surprised with how easy the last 2 weeks have been? I know you guys boosted up your non-league schedule to, be ranked number 2. I think at this point last year you guys were probably 7th or 8th. And you had the week 1 against Scio, and then the last 2 weeks defending champs and a number 2 ranked team, I think. Were you surprised with how easy it's gone for you guys? Maybe not easy, but the scores have been more lopsided than most would think.
Yeah, the Harrisburg game, I think that boosted us in the rankings a lot, obviously because they're last year's state champs. So that's what helped a lot. But they lost a lot of people. They're still a great team, but not quite the caliber they were last year. We lost a lot of people too, of course. But was I surprised with how easy they were? I wouldn't say they were easy. I'd say we just had good weeks of practice and everybody just came together and just did their job. And I think when you just do your own job, don't worry about others' jobs, everything kind of falls together. So we put up a good amount of points in both games.
You guys have alternated between that diesel and the spread, and obviously that diesel really came together. And the Harrisburg game, is there one you prefer?
Well, we have a lot of options with Joey being able to run or pass, and then me being on one side of the ball, Jake being on the other, Jake Bruce, and really good runners, and we can just run it down your throat type thing, or we can air it out, or Joey can throw and empty. So either way, and the line's been doing great too, blocking, getting the blocks every time. It's good.
I'll take a second to read Dawson Carr's stat line here. Mike King texted us yesterday with the stats.
I think that was this morning, wasn't it?
Maybe it was this morning. 26 carries, 131 yards, 14 receptions, 281 yards, and I didn't write this down, I think it's 6 combined touchdowns between those two. Yeah. And then he also has 3 interceptions on defense, including a 99-yard pick 6. So clearly having a great campaign. Did you expect that of yourself this season?
To be honest, I was going into the season expecting a little more, just because I didn't realize, because from losing everybody last year, I was like, wow, I'm going to have to step up a lot this year and have to do a lot more. But Jacob Bruce has been taking a lot of the responsibility. Cayman's been doing a great job. Joey, his running is just obviously extraordinary. And then we got pass game out of Diesel. So we have a lot of options, a lot more than I expected coming into the season. So I don't know. I expect a little more myself, but we're 3-1. We lost to a top 5 team in the state and probably should have won the game. I think we're doing a good job.
You also, backtracking a couple months at the Combine, obviously you remember off the charts 40, high jump, sled shove, pretty much everything. After, a few months removed from that, have the times and numbers from that, do you feel like those have transferred to the playing field as far as, some people run faster in a game situation than they do a 40-yard dash or vice versa? Have you felt like those numbers have matched up with games so far this season?
Yeah, the jumping part, being able to out jump, even already being 6'4", 6'5", that's obviously a big thing. But
right.
Being able to even out jump them, regardless of that, is a big advantage too. I've been double teamed, even sometimes triple teamed already this year, and so I haven't been able to take a lot of the load. But we're we're spreading the ball around, and it's been a pretty good season.
All right. Yeah, obviously, if you're triple team, that means someone's uncovered,
Right.
basically.
Yeah.
Do you feel like that's an advantage this year? Obviously, you still have 6 or 7 touchdowns. So
Yeah, for sure. Because, I mean, somebody's got to be open. And usually, if there's 4 or 5 in the box, we just run with Joey. He's such a good runner. Or if I'm getting double teamed or even triple teamed, Jake's going to be open on the other side. Or we have 3 other great receivers with Cayman and Peyton. And I don't know, it's nice to be one of the better players, but it's like, man, I wish I could get the ball a little bit more.
Right.
But it's nice to take the load off of some of the other players and get them the ball too. Because Jacob stepped up a lot this year. I didn't expect that out of him, but he's been putting in a lot of work.
Okay.
I think you told me before the season that you want to tell Joey, just give me the ball on every play. Do you feel like even if you're triple team, just with your 6'5", 6'6" frame and vertical, that you can still get the catches?
Honestly, yeah. I mean, there's nobody that's like very tall defending me. Like last week, Dayton, I think they had like a 5'8" kid on me, and I was really, they were playing man coverage too, and I was really surprised to see that. So we had a 4th down. I think we're on their 30 maybe, and I just told him to throw it up on a fade route, and he did, and I just went up and got it. So I don't know. I can just tell him I'm going to do that, but obviously the right thing is to hit the open guy, so we're not going to do that every play.
Yeah, no, but you're right. It was 5'8" guy. It's me. I cannot defend you. There's not a thing I can do other than to hit you as soon as you get the ball and try to knock it loose. And,
Right.
and so, if you got good gloves, good hands, then there's not a single thing that can be done.
Right.
Is Rainier a better team this year than you guys were last year?
That might be a stretch, but I think that we work harder as a team because we know how much harder we need to work. And it being my last year, and we have Chris James on the line, his last year, and he's a big motivator for the team. Cayman, it's his last year. All the seniors, it being their last year, they realize like, wow, it's coming to Cayman, it's his last year. All the seniors, it being their last year, they realize like, wow, it's coming to an end, and we need to come together, and if we really want it, we're going to have to push everybody to work hard. But I wouldn't say we're a better team than last year, talent-wise, but we definitely work harder as a group, and I think we have a lot better teamwork than last year.
Okay. I'm sure you feel like you've seen the results, given the way your season's gone.
Yeah.
Okay.
What's been the biggest difference in offense ran by All-Area Player of the Year, Steel Ware last year, compared to how Joey runs the offense? How different is that change?
They're pretty close to each other. They can both run really well, scramble really well. They both have great arms. They're both kind of, Joey's my cousin, Steele's like my best friend. I don't want to say anything about one and then the other. But no, they're both great. I think they both run kind of the same dynamics in their offense, and I think just the biggest thing from last year to this year is the amount of talent we lost. But like I said, the hard work makes up for that.
While we're on the topic of Joey Tripp, how much improved has he gotten this season? Both as a passer, as a runner, and on defense. Obviously an all-state linebacker a year ago, so he wasn't ever too shabby. But I think he leads the year at different times, and maybe still. I haven't added up the stats for this week, but he's led the area in passing, rushing, and tackles at various points in time. How much has he improved?
From last year?
From last year, or even the year before when he was, put under center.
He's always been one of those kids that just gives full effort every day, and I think if you do that, you're gonna improve every single day. He's been, I know it kind of took its toll last year when he was replaced by Steele, but he kind of realized like I still got 2 years to prove myself after this, so he's just going out there and showing everybody who he really is, I guess. And last year, obviously, at slot, he didn't have a bad year. So, and then defense, of course.
Right. he is always so kind of quiet to me when he's talking with me, and but kind of a vocal guy, it seems like, just within the huddle. But I think I was impressed in the Harrisburg game that he, in the first drive, he forces a fumble and then takes, I think, 70 of the next 82 yards rushing, and then a 12-yard pass, so he counted for all 60, 70 yards on the way to the end zone. Is that how does he flip that on where he can just take over a game like that?
I don't know. Honestly, it seems like his family is just coordinated that way. Like, even just like his brothers who have gone through. Outside of sports, they're really mellow, really nice, really calm. But as soon as it comes game time, it's like they just flip a switch and let's go time. But that series you're talking about, I think the third or fourth play, we're actually supposed to run a pass play, and he misinterpreted what the coaches said, but he ended up running anyways, and touchdowns. Whatever works.
How'd Mike King react to that?
He just played it off like that was what was supposed to happen. Everybody knew the call. Everybody knew, that was the wrong thing to do. But touchdown,
right?
You can't complain about it.
Right.
What is Mike like as a coach?
He can get on you at times. I think he doesn't get mad very often. So when he does get mad, it's kind of like are you being serious right now? It's hard to tell. But every Thursday we have walkthrough, and before game day, and I think every single walkthrough from my freshman year till now, he's threatened to make us go put the gear on, but we've never done it. So that's one thing that.
Well, when he listens to this, he's gonna make you do it now.
Oh
yeah. How important is staying loose for you guys? I mean, I know that sometimes, especially when you get to this point in the season where you got 4 games down, and especially when you're successful, how do you guys? Is there an emphasis on staying loose, and how important do you feel that is come middle of the season and beyond that?
Yeah, obviously halfway into the season we're all kind of beat up, and especially with these last few games we've had, they've been pretty physical. He just tells us to, take it easy when you can, but when it comes practice time, you better be ready to go. So we just gotta switch it on, I guess. Now we don't have to go like all the time in practice. We can take breaks here and there, If we're kind of beat up and he knows it, he'll, especially if it's an easier week. I mean, if we were playing in San Diego this week, I don't think anybody was getting a break.
Okay, yeah.
But luckily that's not the case, so we can kind of mellow down throughout the year at times. Just depends on who we're playing.
How about the mental side, where has there been any time, since your freshman year to now, where King will say, "Hey, I can tell you guys are stressed out. Let's take a break. Let's talk shop. Nothing about football. Just how you guys doing? Has there been anything like that you can think of, or?"
Not that I can think of, but I do remember actually just today in practice he was saying, we just beat number 2 team in the state last week. Week before that, we beat the number 5 team in the state, defending champs, and he just told us, don't get complacent on where you're at, because it'll come back to haunt you. That's what we did last year, and we were just sweeping through the preseason, sweeping through league, and then we're 10-0 and we go to play Harrisburg, and before the game too, I was just thinking, like, I think we're getting a little bit too complacent on where we're at. Me being a junior, having 10, 15 seniors, it's like, do I step up or not and tell these people that we can't get complacent, or just try to let the seniors step up and do their job? Me not being a captain last year, I decided to just kind of leave it on the seniors, and that's probably a mistake because I think we really underestimated Harrisburg last year.
Okay. How so? Was there any one element that you guys underestimated, or was it just the type of thing where?
Just kind of them in general, like, oh, we've been putting up this many points all year, and I'm sure we can just go in to play Harrisburg and take them down, but nobody really was taking it seriously that week, and got us.
not a whole lot of huge tests left on the regular season, but one I'm really interested in, Klatskanai. I don't know if you've seen anything or heard anything of them, but what's your thoughts on their success so far this season? They were 3-0 going into the Amity game and, competed with Amity, right there till the end. What's your thoughts on your rivals?
I don't have much to say about them other than, come Tiger Week, we're going to go in and get things done, probably.
Are you excited for a matchup with the Blodgetts?
Yeah, I'd say I'm a little more than excited than a matchup with them. I don't know. We'll see what happens.
All right. That matchup set for week 8 at Rainier this year after a pretty lopsided affair in Klatskanai last year. But really, that's about the only league test in a 4-team league when you have, Warrenton and Portland Christian, who, no offense to them, but just aren't at the, a state caliber level yet.
Right.
A couple other games this week in a week that doesn't have a lot of good ones. It's just not very many good games this week. Woodland R.A. Long at Longview Memorial. Woodland has had some struggles this season. Some heartbreaking defeats with the game against Hudson's Bay with the last-second field goal. R.A. Long obviously looked pretty strong, but then went to Vancouver and lost to Columbia River.
Yeah.
What's your thoughts on that game, Jason?
Well, I think first off, it's not something I've talked to him about specifically yet, and I need to give him a call. Happy birthday to Rob James, by the way. His birthday was Tuesday. R.A. Long coach, so happy birthday to you, Coach James. And I talked to him earlier last week, and he kind of said, well, our record is what it is, but right now we have to approach this like row and O, and hey, I'm 31 now, but I've been 16, 17 obviously before. I know how good it feels to roll on and how that can kind of get a little bit over your head, and it's something I know that R.A. Long, approaching the Mark Morris game, kind of felt like, hey, this should be easy. But then at around halftime, they were like, oh wow, okay, this isn't going how we thought it would, and we got to step it up, and they did. I think that may have been the same situation with Columbia River, where they just couldn't come back from that, and so I think they're a talented team. I think their biggest enemy right now is themselves, and I think they probably have realized that. Woodland is also a good team. Last week they dropped a game they should have won, 5 fumbles, I believe, or 5 turnovers in the first half, and that's something they know they need to work on. But they have the talent also. So that right there, I think, to me, is the game of the week. They have each team has very similar play styles. They have similar talents, on both sides of the ball, and I think that's a game that it's a coin flip as far as who can win. I have Woodland just because of their offensive line. I think will probably push back the D line of R.A. Long a little bit more. Just my gut feeling more than anything, and I think that will allow Wyatt Harsh to move the ball a little bit more, and that's something he hasn't had the luxury of this season. I think, Kalama in general, that game, they won, the battle there up front, and I think this is a game where Woodland's O-line will be able to provide him time, and same with Tyler Flanagan, provide him a couple holes to get through, because you just need one for the long one. So that's kind of my gut feeling on that.
I forget who I have. I have it written down somewhere.
It's a game that could go wrong. It could really.
I think I have R.A. Long, but certainly going to be a good game. I get to staff that one after last week covering Mark Morris, who lost their 14th straight. But I've got to give Sean Perkins' squad credit this season for how hard they've played on defense. This is a team that for 3 quarters they can really compete with anybody defensively. That defense does get worn down, if the offense can't move the ball a whole lot. But I mean, they were a fumble away from going to overtime with, undefeated Washougal last week. Dawson, I want to ask you, how hard is it to recover from a close loss like that? Last second thing. You obviously had the overtime one to Scio this year. How tough is it to recover, in that next week?
Well, for us, we played Umatilla, and they were obviously one of the lower ranked teams, so it was nice to put up that many points against them, but I think we realized that they're not a top tier team, so we should probably step it up. And just like last year, years before, we've been more of a first half team. Second half come around, and for some reason we just can't finish. So that's what Mike King, our coach, has been talking a lot about this year, just finishing. Just like the Dayton game, I forget what we were up at halftime, but it was around a 20-point lead, and he was still just like, no lead's too big, we gotta finish. So as long as you finish games, I guess you're all right. But bouncing back from a loss, especially against a team that's good, it's hard, but it's definitely doable.
Yeah, it was heartbreaking for Mark Morris, especially since they had a chance to snap that streak, and now they go to Hawkinson, and it's just not a week where you can be like, you can build on, playing the number 3 ranked team in the 2As in Washington State. Another game that I'm real interested in this week is 8-man football. Tohola and Nacelle. I was talking with Jeff Eaton. Tohola hasn't played a game yet this season. They've had 2 forfeit losses. That game is a go. That's obviously the Coastal 1B League rivalry, likely for the division title. But Nacelle, good team. And it's hard to say what Tohola will bring because they haven't played yet this year. And we're in week 5, so that'll be interesting. Jason's going to be out at that one. Clatskanie, Illinois Valley. Any thoughts on that one? Clatskanie going to come away with their 4th win?
I don't want to say Clatskanie, but I think Illinois Valley's not much of a matchup for, no offense to them, but for most of the higher up teams, it's just they're not physical enough. So I guess I'll go with Clatskanie, but not really wanting to.
With your brain, not your heart.
Right.
There was 6 one-possession games last week of our 11, and you got to cover one in Toledo.
Mm-hmm.
What did Toledo do so well in that game to get the win, and how do they keep the momentum of that going forward into a division that's between them and Calamity Grab?
Well, they ran the ball really well. I believe they had close to 400. I think it was like 368 or 378 rush yards, something like that. They just ran. They passed a little bit. Their pass game was relatively ineffective. There were a few plays where quarterback and receiver weren't on the same page. 1 or 2 where the ball was dropped, and they had trouble around the goal line. And that's something. I think that's you probably would agree that goal line football is a lot different than playing at midfield. I mean, you have a small field to play on.
It's different from him. He just goes posts up in the corner.
Yeah, but he's got to play defense too, right? So,
oh yeah,
that's. Let me ask you actually, how do you feel in this area? How do you feel goal line defense differs from something around the 50-yard line?
Obviously, 50-yard line, the offense has a lot more room to work with. Running routes off, running people off for runs. On the goal line, it's tricky. I remember a game, it'd be my sophomore year, I think. It might have been last year, actually. We played Stevenson, Washington, and we were expected to win going into it. And one of the big plays was me at corner covering the flats, and a kid ran a little pigtail, just a little 2-yard pigtail, and he wasn't open for long, but he was open long enough to get the ball for a touchdown. So it's hard as a defender to guard that unless you're manned up,
Right.
But it's also hard as an offense because you don't have a ton of room to work with. So kind of evens out, but it's definitely a different game.
Okay. Yeah, that's something I think if Toledo was more effective in the goal line situations on both sides of the ball, I think that they would have walked away with a victory. I believe they had I think they may have had a red zone interception and a red zone fumble, if I remember correctly. And those, I mean, this is something Coach Mike Christensen said. If you rush for almost 400 yards in a football game, you should score more than 2 touchdowns, and that's a fact. I mean, it's not, you'd agree, I'm sure. And so if they get better at that, if they can figure out what they did wrong and fix what they did wrong, it should be fine. They've had a lot of tough breaks, tough losses, and lost a quarterback 2 weeks ago with an elbow injury on the last play of the game, non-contact. The guy's elbow just broke throwing the football, not even being hit. So I think that play almost sums up how Toledo's year has gone so far. They've had some good, but plenty of things that just went wrong for reasons that are tough to explain. So
they are still only one of 3 of our local teams ranked in the top 10. We have Rainier number 2 in OSAA. That's at least computerized, and us sports writers don't get to vote on that. Probably lucky for you guys. And then, all the Portland writers be voting for all the,
Right.
And then we have Kalama number 1 in the 2Bs and Toledo number 7. And then that's it.
yeah.
Unlike our prep slate this week, which is not great, there are some great college games. USC and Wazoo, 2 undefeated Pac-12 teams, face off in Pullman this weekend. I'll quickly go through you guys. Who do you got in that one?
USC's been looking good this year, obviously ranked in the top 10, so I'll go with USC on this one.
I agree.
I have USC as well. How about Cal, Oregon?
I gotta go with Oregon, obviously.
Ducks fan?
Yeah.
Okay.
I've grown up watching Cal football my entire life. I grew up in the Bay Area. And there's one thing I know that is when you expect Cal to win, they don't. They're like, what's that Tom Hanks movie? I can't believe I'm forgetting this name. They're like Jenny in. Oh,
You're older than us,
Forrest
man.
Gump.
Forrest Gump.
How do you forget that?
I don't know. That's what I was thinking. I was like, I can't believe that. I don't know how he. Don't blame me. It's his fault.
I almost didn't say because I didn't think you'd forget something like that.
Right, seriously. It's like Jenny and Forrest Gump. That's how Cal football is to anybody that grew up in that area. It's like just going to break your heart regardless of what happens. But I'm going with Cal because I'm a moron.
I can testify to that. I also have Cal, though, so I don't know. I just think Oregon's overrated. Always have. Go Dogs. Let's see. Clemson, Virginia Tech. We'll go East Coast here. Number 2 v number 12. You smell upset this week?
Not against Clemson.
All right.
Their new quarterback, I don't think he's going to lose this game.
All right.
Yeah.
You got Clemson too?
Yeah, I heard Rick Pitino was good friends with the Clemson coach, so I'm on Clemson.
I got Virginia Tech in that one. I think, what was it, 2 years ago or last year they handed their Clemson their only loss.
Sounds right.
So I got Virginia Tech. It's in Virginia Tech, so I got the Hokies. Colts, Seahawks.
I'll go Seahawks. I don't really have a favorite NFL team, but I'll go with somewhat local.
Okay.
I would agree. I don't see.
Okay. Yeah.
I feel bad for Jacoby Brissett this week.
Yeah, it's gonna be the Seahawks. For sure. I'll go with your favorite team then. Raiders, Broncos.
I think the Broncos going to win. I don't think.
No loyalties.
No, I
I'll take
covered. I
Raiders just
covered.
because of their quarterback.
I covered them for
Raiders.
4 years. So yeah, the Broncos have the Raiders number. They always have. And the Broncos are under that system. There's no way. Raiders are losing that one.
He's got Raiders. I think I have Broncos in
Okay.
Pigskin Profits, but like I said, I do these things at the beginning of the week and then I forget all about them. But I am in last place, so ignore all of my selections. That's all for us. You want to sign us off, Jason?
Yep. Thanks for you guys that watched this to this point. And we don't offer refunds, so I'm sorry.
Unlike Sunday NFL ticket.
Yeah. Or Louisville basketball. So thanks again also Sterling Auto Group for sponsoring us, and until next week, take care.